beginning, I want to be talking about the Seven Realms series by Cinda Williams Chima. I feel like I've mentioned these books like a million times in my videos, but I finally finished the series! And this review is going to be totally spoiler free, so you can watch the entire thing even if you haven't finished the books. So first, can we just talk about how pretty these covers are? The first one, where the cool snake amulet thing, and then it's all misty in the background. Ooh. Then the exiled queen with like the blue cover, and then the ring with all this mystical magic stuff around it. And then the second one with a really pretty crown and purple, and my favorite color is not purple, but it's still really pretty. Look at this one, it's just like so red, and it's like bold, and there's a freaking falcon thing, like whoa! But anyways, I really enjoyed this series. Throughout the entire month of April, I've been wanting to read a fantasy book, and then I finally got my hands on this series, and I was just, yes! Finally! The series is told between two points of view, Princess Reza and Han Alistair's. Han Alistair is a street lord, but he likes to go by the name Cuffs. And he's called Cuffs because he's had these strange cuffs around his wrist that he hasn't been able to take off, and they've just been there since he was a baby. Han Alistair is a street lord, but I guess it's kind of like a gang lord, and so he's really street smart, and then he has people who look up to him. He's also an ex-thief, but he's trying to change his ways for the better. But then his whole entire life changes when he stumbles into Micah Bayar. I'm pretty sure it's Micah Bayar. I've never said his name aloud, but it sounds weird. Micah Bayar. Bayar? I don't know. But Micah Bayar is the son of the High Wizard, which is kind of the person who's in charge of all the wizarding business. But when they meet, Han gets his hands on Micah Bayar's amulet. And this world's magic system was really interesting to me because these wizards, they can only control or use their magic if they're wearing an amulet. And this amulet is definitely not normal. It used to belong to the Demon King. The Demon King is a man who nearly destroyed the world thousands of years ago. And this amulet is really powerful. So Micah Bayar and his family will stop at nothing to get that amulet back from Han, who's totally oblivious to everything. And then our second main character is Reza Anna Mariana. But the thing is, she goes by like a million names, so they never know what to call her. And she's next in line for the throne, so she's a princess. And you know how princesses act. They're spoiled, and they're like totally oblivious to everything, and they know nothing about what's happening down on the streets. So I guess that's Reza in the beginning of this book. But Reza's not totally oblivious. Even at the beginning of the book, she's different from the queens that have passed before her because she is half clan blood, and clan blood is looked down upon by the blue bloods, which are the fancy people in their realm. So she's pretty much half of what the fancy people considers trash, and then half fancy people. Do you know what I mean? She's already different from other queens, and she acts different too. She's stubborn, and she wants to change the realm and not just go to parties and all that stuff. She wants to be a warrior queen like Hannah, which is the first warrior queen. By warrior queen, I don't mean like actual warrior, but like a good queen. But literally everyone in court has different plans for her. And both sides of this story is just filled with drama, and it's so intricately woven, and you're just like, whoa, how does this all connect? And it's just so amazing learning about everything. So my camera just died, so I needed to change angles, but yeah, that's the little explanation for the new angle. I would rate this series around a 95% because it was fantasy and I really enjoyed it. Even though this is a fantasy read, there's not a lot of battling, and I was totally okay with that, but I know other people might not really be into that. But this was a lot of politics, this entire series. There's a lot of dialogue and secrets, deception, and like strategy. I was really interested in the politics because there was so much history and people throwing curveballs, and you never know what's going to happen next because you think you know, but it's just so different. And then there's so many new aspects in history that you need to know of before you actually like can understand everything, and she keeps on revealing it. And I feel like the first book is just like boom, wall of information, all this world building and all the magical aspects and what's going on in the world, and it was so interesting, and I was flying through the pages. And the magical aspect was really interesting to me because, like I said earlier, wizards, they can only use their magic by holding onto an amulet. And in this series, there's also just a lot of world building and history among everything, and everything feels so real because everything is so built up. There's so many cultures and religions and the way people act. And while learning about all the history, you get to see why the wizards and why the clans people and the royal people are the way they are. All four books give you a lot of information, but I feel like the second book gave you a little bit less, and it was more about the plot and building it up, and I think there was a lot of character development on both sides of this story. In the end of the second and the majority of the third book, though, there is a lot of drama, and I mean like romantic drama, but it was totally understandable to me. Even though I'm not one to like love triangles, this was all political, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do that? And the fourth and fifth book had a lot of politics and law and lots of lies and secrets and stuff that you're just like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? I didn't know that, even what? The romance is really spread out throughout the entire series, and in the beginning, there's not a lot of it at all. In the first book, the romance is definitely not a big thing, so if you wanted something like cute and like first to Beth relationship in the first book, then that's not really there, but I think the relationship does grow from there, and the romance increases with each book. And I really like the pacing of the people's relationship. With these books, sometimes they will jump months. Like, they will just say like, oh, after the past couple of months, blank, 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 blank. I think I was supposed to say blah, 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 but whatever. And honestly, even though there wasn't a lot of romance and action and stuff like that in the first book, I still think that you should pick it up because the world building and history is just so interesting. And it just sets up the world for the rest of the book so well. And you're just like,
oh my goodness, what's gonna happen?
And maybe it's because I haven't read a fantasy book in a long time, but I was just astounded with all the history and cultures and this magic and all of that stuff that like Cinda Williams Chima just like created. It sounds really boring, but I swear the series is really, really good. There's really interesting magic, and then politics, and like romance, and all that stuff, I promise. These books weren't super humorous, but they still had that feel of a YA book, you know, when like it will never be like totally serious. I think actually in the fourth book, that's like the most serious, and that's when things are getting like,
oh, you could die.
But Alistair, since he was raised on the streets, he's different from the other Blue Bloods, which are the fancy people in this world, and he's not used to being super serious all the time. So him and the side characters definitely did bring some humorous moments. Speaking about the characters, pretty much all of the characters went through some major character development throughout this entire series. It's like they're not even the people that they were before when the series first started. They've gone through so much and learned a lot throughout the series, and then they've experienced so many things that people their age haven't experienced. And the characters, but mostly and Alistair, are just faced with impossible tasks and things that they have to do. But they kept on trying and hoping to get through the situations, even if there was no easy way out. And I know this is a fictional book, but it's like saying nothing is impossible if you try hard enough. And another thing, revenge isn't always the best option. So that's the end of my series review, and thanks so much for watching. Bye!
Hi, I'm Lenny, and I'm going to be talking about the Seven Realms trilogy. Nope, this isn't a trilogy. And this review... Why can't I talk right now?